Okay, so this is me processing my takeaways that clicked into my mind, downloads that I received when I was part of Gypsy Cowgirl's meet and greet on Zoom on the 23rd of December at 4:11 p.m. EST. Okay, so the first thing that I was thinking about is how I shared at the end of the meet and greet a drawing that I'd done. I filled up many pages of notebook while we were chatting. I was mainly listening to people, but so this is like this fractal shape that I started to take on. Like, you see how there can be tiers of it replicating itself and like hanging off like beads of a chandelier. And then I was playing around with it as like, it's almost like a pagoda silhouette. And then, you know, on the loops or the shoulders of it, you get two more. And then on those loops, you get another set. And that led me to want to use the grid on this grid paper to like really make a crisp one, because I already know when I get these shapes that they have maddeningly infinite combinations of how they can be expressed and stacked and layered, which is one of the things that I have to work on, because I'm like, which do I actualize? Do I actualize it? A lot of the cases, no, I don't, because these things come and go so quickly. So it was really nice, honestly, to have the space to sit there and be like, I'm going to map it out. I'm going to map it out in a way that makes it logical mathematically. I was even thinking like, I need to collaborate with a mathematician and have them give me, right? Because there would be an equation that you could type in, and then the once you pressed enter on the software, right, it would graph it and just show my little creation, and it could do it, right? I believe, right? Math people would be able to comment more on this, but my understanding of math and equations and these representations is that it can just calculate and model it in a fractal if it is a fractal, which, I mean, I think that's the cool thing about math and line and graph, like reducing the physical world down to line and graph, and then the axes, right? The X and the Y, that's 2D, and then you get like the Z axis, 3D, and then like that's all that matter is, just these shapes, right? These codes, these algorithms. So that's kind of for me where simulation theory clicks in. It's like, yeah, but it's not like an overlord simulation by the playmaker, like, sure, in a way, but like, I mean, it's always, that's gonna forever live on a mystery for our all intents and purposes as a collective having human experiences in this realm, because that's not like accessible to us. And like once you go into different realms of consciousness higher above that, right, if you see that it doesn't quite matter, because it's like a programming that's inherent to how things catalyze itself. And I said this to myself in another video recently, but it's like, who's the programmer? Who's creating it's all of the people in the world, but also just like the energies in the world, because there's a lot of energies at play in the world that aren't incarnate as human beings or people. It's just energy at play. But I believe that those energies also abide by like these categorizations of like what could be considered algorithmic programming, right? Because there are codes in nature that replicate themselves. Something that I read yesterday, I think it was on We the Aether, the Instagram. It said all of nature, all of life is in movement, and all movement is curvature, and all curvature is spiral. So then I drew this as well in the beginning to mean like outside of a quantum space. Actually, I don't know what that means. I don't know how to start with that. Outside of a quantum space. So I think that what's happened to me, I think that's what's been part of my experience since I was young, because I can do this thing. I've always been able to do it. I think about being on long car trips with my family and kind of just looking into space. I can do it whether or not my eyes are closed. But if I fix my eyes in one place, I can allow these spiral blooms to just kind of originate in my vision. They're like it's like a screen they're fixed on whatever plane, like they hang in space in front of whatever plane I fix my eyes on, and they just start to pulsate. And if I focus hard enough, then they can bloom and become a little bit more tactile and visually defined. But all it is focusing on a moment in this space-time continuum that's connected by like the empty space in between the physical objects that we so readily see. So that for me was like the constant form of my vision that I could connect to since I was a young child, that was outside of like physical matter. There's definitely something else there in the air, you know, pulsing and moving, and I can see. So now, like, coming over 2 decades, I'm thinking about being an 8-year-old child and being 28 now. So it'd be like, you know, 20 years later, what does that look like? Well, I can still do it, but also seeing like things around people's heads or different things moving. It's like there's always motion in the air. And I see those spirals as like the 0 point, that's just the energetic commotion of things like interconnecting. Okay, so the bottom of the pyramid here in the drawing is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those tick marks. Those tick marks are the senses that we use to experience things. So if you think that you can only experience life through seeing, or, you know, all of that is where the physical world meets our minds. It's quite bitterly cold and stormy out tonight, so the trees are like rapping against my windows in the wind. Of course, it's within our, you know, our souls and our subconsciouses and our higher selves and our minds that all of that integration, all of that information throughout the course of our lives, you know, I think that people underestimate at what age young children start retaining and imprinting and accepting stuff. I mean, I think it happens immediately. I think that babies are very aware. It's just that they haven't learned anything to express that awareness with yet. No words, no, you know, they're so new. And when you kind of process and churn all of it together, everything that you've, you know, the aggregate experience, the experiential recipe, right? You get a little bit of this, a little bit of that. People in your life from a young age, you'll have people talking to you in certain ways. You'll be exposed to certain things. This is why there's like cultural phenomenon and commonalities and generations of people that grow up at the same time, because we're all tethered to the same, like what the media was, you know, the cartoons of my childhood, that type of thing. So all of that coagulates in the mind, and certain things throughout our lives resonate with us on the soul level. So then there's this interplay between, like, you know, what we like and what we experience, and then all varying levels of people denying parts of themselves as that happens in a very natural way, and then or like waking up to things. And so kind of like I guess I want to talk about like quantum, seeing quantum mechanics unfurling around me, like very, very, very fractal in conversation. So it's the everything. It's the cosmic now. It's the present moment. It's the end all be all, right? Because I see pictures of fractals, and all I see is like eternity and infinity and oneness. Another quote that I read just the other day, I should really look up who said it. I can come up with it. Not Terence McKenna, but there was a Terence McKenna one right after that I read that I was moved by, something about the psychedelic experience that he talks about. But the other one, well, I want to say Buckminster Fuller, like it's like an obvious one. Regardless, he said there's only one way that life can be infinite and interconnected, and it is through the fractal. So all the different models, right? Because it doesn't matter what the expression of life is, the truth, the framework, the reason why you could call it a simulation, life in this plane that expresses itself, all this matter catalyzing itself. You know, people think it's all chaotic and random. No, it's all, I mean, you're a cog in the machine. Whatever you put forth, you have just as much agency as anybody else does. You catalyze all the matter around you. I love saying that phrase, catalyze the matter, crystallize the matter, because that's what you do. I mean, what you do is the amount of dedication and focus that you can put on what it is that you're emitting into the universe, the more controlled your experience will be of what you want to experience, and how keyed in you are to experiencing and learning from things that you don't want to experience, because you're open to considering how you could have brought that into your life, right? Because that's what clearing karma can occur as a result of doing. So what I put down here, where the 5 senses are like the true guide, is a slow wave curve, because if that's the foremost authority that you lean upon to understand what's happening around you at any given moment in time. I guess I never even said this, but I'm doing a soothing facial mask. You can probably tell. Eucalyptus and stuff. It's nice. It's making my skin feel real cool. But that's why I like this. This is a sparkling cider. All right, so if that is the compass that you're using, as humans do, as we do, then the experience of different things happening, they'll feel disparate, because all of those senses, they give us information in different ways, and then in the mind, in the soul, is where it gets all unified, so that we can understand, our brains process what is happening in the world around us, and therefore how we feel about it and stuff. But if you are vibrating and accessing higher frequencies, faster waveforms, your energy, your body is trained and opening to holding and handling like quicker energy, higher frequency energy. Then those tick marks, the 5 that are next to each other, those senses, they merge into one, because sometimes the way that I feel and process and understand information, I don't even know how it came to me. I can't tell if I heard it in my ear. I can't tell if I saw it. And I mean, so this is where like the quantum piece comes in. It's a faster, quicker vantage point that exceeds the human capacity with the senses that we've been given. So in most cases, it's all of them happening at the same time. So I'll see like a montage in my mind, and that's my, like, I talk about this more and more. I'm talking about it. I have like a dashboard where I see like the visuals of like how, I don't know, usually it's like the format of a GIF, like a small rotating moving image that is a perfect metaphorical representation of a concept that I'm being given or trying to grasp. Or in many cases, it pops up if I'm trying to articulate something to somebody else in words, I can say it is as if, and then use that as a visual metaphor explanation. That's how I developed all of the tattoos that I have, that are codes for dialectical behavioral therapy techniques that are, 10-year anniversary at this point. I started getting these like symbol tattoos, like a roadmap, right? Because the whole world, another quote I'm going to drop in that I can't reference. This is probably one of my worst qualities, is just citing things and not being able to say where I got them from. It feels criminal. I need to be a lot more researched with that. It is not words and information that rules the world. It is colors and symbols. It is that, right? Because everything is so fraught with significance, and we are so blind to how tightly interwoven these things truly are right in front of our faces. Like it's like, again, another quote, Carl Jung, synchronicities are ever present for those who have eyes to see. And I know a lot of people just know, and it's like you got to get out of the energy of like, it's crazy. Like, no, it's not crazy. It's how the world's built. If you look and if you see and if you do, so like something I do, right, is I can reduce all of the numbers on license plates or phone numbers down to a single digit and extract the meaning of the single digit, because numerology and the definition, the meanings and the symbolism behind the digits 1 through 9, and then 10 and master numbers 11, 22 and 33, and then angel numbers, right? 444 has been a big one for me lately. They all kind of swirl around in patterns, in moments, and sometimes I'm on a big 333 thing and then it just disappears. But my point is, it isn't crazy, and it's not just that. It's colors and layering of things, and certain types of coincidences that tie together in the most otherworldly way. I'll share one story as a perfect example of that I thought about this evening when I was listening talking, sharing, journaling, writing with the people on the call. And I was in Barcelona in the summer of 2018, and my home base was France, but I did excursions here and there, and it was a weekend in Barcelona, and I was deeply like moved by the energy. It was instantaneous when we were on a bus going to Spain from France, and I was journaling and meditating on the bus and just getting the most like bright, spiritual, like illuminated downloads, like feeling so high vibrational, like on another planet, just really seeing beautiful visions, doodling things. And the bus stopped at a stoplight, and we were, the bus was behind a couple cars in one lane, a couple cars in another lane. And in my mind at that point in time, I heard in my clairaudience, or I saw the words "Préparez sous vos yeux," "Préparez sous vos yeux," I'm French. I'll write it out. In fact, I have a "Préparez sous vos yeux." Vos yeux. It might not be grammatically correct in French. Prepare before your eyes is the definition. I'm going to sneak in another example of like synchronicity and like this tightly like tapped in, like your life will just like tick, 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 like just show. You're never alone. You're always having an intimate conversation with the universe. So I was feeling some type of way the other evening, and I really needed to release energy that didn't belong to me. I have a life in a world where I'm talking to a lot of people. I'm encountering a lot of people on a regular basis whom I don't know for my job. And I go into people's homes, and I have the need to clear, and sometimes I don't do that as much as I need to. So I hit a point the other evening where I needed to really release stuff, and I needed to release it in a way that made it gone, right? Because we can release energy in different ways, and you can do that with water, drains. I turned the drain on, and I just put the energy down, and I said what I needed to say. I fixed what I needed to fix with the ways that I am trained to do that, have helped myself learn how to do that in the ways that work for me. Side note, it's my belief that everybody can develop their own energetic tools because we're all different that work for them. And there are so many different ways to understand ourselves that really change the way we live our lives. Because when you don't know that certain things are possible, that part of your brain will. So this is tying into what I'm getting download. Activating DNA, junk DNA. There's like an alarming percent of human DNA that's referred to as junk DNA because it's not activated or on in some way. And that's what I believe happens when you start to like awaken certain parts of your cellular spiritual code again. So like fractals, and like you're like coming online in very big ways when you start to suspend disbelief and open your mind. Because like, people are afraid to like daydream and go there and go here, but like, I mean, you're allowed to kind of open yourself to new experiences indefinitely and like infinitely. And when you start to do that, you experience your world in a different way. Like, that's it changes, I believe, because like DNA, right? That's a physical structure on some level, the smallest level, this itty bitty, they can study it. There's a structure. We change our like physical bodies, like how we feel and function, because the energy, like this isn't all just like conceptual. It's very physical, very real. It's the source of why people get ailments. It's all energy. Okay, so I got rid of it down the kitchen sink, and at that moment I was listening to, I had songs on shuffle in my kitchen. I was listening to The Dog Days Are Over by Florence and the Machine, and the lyric queued up right when I did that. It said, and washed it away down the kitchen sink, the dog days. So I was like, oh, but like, so the ones that are crazy for me really still make me like, I don't know, feel like life is just this, like, they blow my mind because it's interesting to be tapped into something that's like, mildly spooky, but it's also empowering. And it's like being in a bubble if you're living your life on Earth, and the things outside of the bubble, they're very real. You're not protected or safe from the things outside of the bubble. because there's a big world out there, basically, energetically, spiritually, there's a big world out there. It's got both good and bad. It's intense. It's a lot to handle. And so it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist if you stay inside the bubble and don't pay attention to it or look at it, but it still affects you. So my like stance on all of this, right? Because it's another thing I saw the other day on Instagram, a meme. It said, it's not a spiritual path. It's just a path. It's the only path. Something I've said before is like, I remember being a teenager and people saying, it's so cool that you're like into spirituality. Like I just don't have time to do any of that stuff. And like, it's not a hobby. It became like, it's a study for me. I consider myself like an exploring astral scientist of like light work. And I mean, it's been like, I feel like this part of my life has led me into such depth and confusion and illumination and passion and like enlightened moments of like pure creative genius, and then depths again. And like, it's, very real, I guess, very real. And I'm not like, well, I'm probably going to go off on a tangent of trying to explain exactly how I feel about religions and God, and that's not why I'm recording this video. So I'm going to put a stop to that. Prepare before your eyes. Okay, so the kitchen sink synchronicity example with the dog days are over, but then I was talking about being on the bus in Spain, so I'm jumping back into that storyline. So I was sitting there at the stoplight, and this is what I saw. Of course, that's backwards. Prepare sous vos yeux. That's what popped into my head. Okay, so I heard that. I was writing, so I wrote it down in my journal. And when I got out my phone and I Googled the translation of it, it meant prepare before your eyes, which I can kind of understand. I can speak a little French, but I was like, I don't fully understand. So I checked, that's what it translated to. And at that moment, as I sat on the bus, okay, so I had like a peripheral, there was like a building with like an advertisement flag of some kind, and then like a taxi and this, and another billboard and a car next to us, and a girl on the seat of the bus, on my bus, across the aisle from me, and then me, okay? So there was this sight line, I mean, right, because every time you look around, you've got this whole world around you, but the exact position that I found myself in, there was a violet object, a blue object, a green object, a yellow, red, orange, and then like a red and a pink. Like it went around in this perfect rainbow. And that message came into my head. Like sometimes with messages, with things that pop up, there's just a knowing. You don't know how or why, but these two things, they correlate. I can't quite make sense of it yet. You know, that's why I'm a journaler. Like I've got, oh my God, so many things that I wrote so long ago. And I'm like, wow, that was such a big key to this puzzle, right? Because it's all the same conversation. There's nothing to be resolved. It's all just more and more peace. It's supposed to be fun. The creative like expression and synthesis and understanding of, I mean, there's so many things happening, you know, in the world and through the expression, the voyage of humanity finding itself. But like, in order to stay sane, I've had to remind myself that there's no like end all be all. Like, yes, I can feel like an explorer and a scientist, but like it's for the joy of doing it in a treadmill, Sisyphus-like fashion. That is my lot in life, to constantly understand and try to process and share this information in new ways. And I couldn't be like more thrilled to have that lot in life because I've been doing it privately and passionately for so long. Not super privately, but in some time I think one might look back on this period and say, yeah, that was like my private time, my private decade to prepare before your eyes. Okay, so I was like understanding that the words in my head, I had written them in French, I had translated them, and the rainbow, that was a thing. I was like, I feel this, and I was still feeling really good, you know. I just I've made it more and more comfortable over the course of my life to not judge the complexity of my own experiences It's more of like, you know, an observant lens upon your own life, and like take notes and watch what happens and be kind with yourself and try to just understand, you know, and dig deep. That's for me what people say when they're like, the answers are all inside you, like go within. It's like, really, no, really, like study your own mind, like ask questions, like become a little case study. I think the reason why that's like the tune that I sing is because when I started doing like the symbols, blah, 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 like that was such a rock bottom in my life, and I was reborn, like just a different person. I had to heal a lot of really challenging things. And going into having been in school, doing these psychology classes that were very intellectually stimulating for me and resonating and awakening a lot of spiritual stuff inside me. So I would be in a psychology lecture having spiritual epiphanies and making doodles literally just like I did tonight, but you know, 10 years ago, about like twisties and fractals and my grids and my webs and all the things that like my art is riddled with. I've always been seeing in that like quantum reducing physical life and form down to line, and the direction that line may take. It's exciting. It's a line. It goes everywhere. Any probable path that it could possibly map, it will, and it does, and that's life. And so I, you know, going into a place of treatment and solace and pain, like regret, loss, like the emotions that accompanied beginning like a rehabilitation journey. Coming off of that, I was very much in a space of like the patient becomes the teacher. And something that, this is so funny, on the call tonight, I so badly wanted to share, but like I can talk and take up a lot of space, and I wanted to be in a listening mode. And I remembered how it was when I first started sessions at that treatment program. I did not speak a lot about myself. I would chime in and I would offer information that was coming into my mind for other people's benefit when they shared about their own experiences. And that's how it was for me tonight. I would be like, I have something to say to that, and just share something. But it just an interesting time of, you know, I think that's where I really, because it was such a literal, I am a patient, you know, and I was trying to fix myself, and it wasn't very easy. It took years to do. It wasn't, you know, I was in the program for a few months, but it didn't just get better, you know. So, and what was wrong with me, like, you know, many things, and like many things have continued. Like it's just karma and my lessons, my learning, my trauma, everybody deals with a lot of stuff in life. And I've certainly done that. So yeah, the going within. Okay, so being conversational with yourself about the things you're experiencing. I wrote down, in fact, I could probably find the journal that I wrote this in. I could probably find the journal I wrote this in. But I basically just did now it's going to bug me which journal. Because I keep them all. Got a lot of journals. I got a lot of journals. I basically drew like a rainbow circle and my position in it, and it was like this crude illustration. As many of my, to be honest, some of my most like deep, like intense works to express are the crudest of sketches, because it's fast moving and I can't like articulate it. And so badly do I wish to sit and render these gorgeous, you know, utilizing every last drop of talent in my body to make a masterpiece, but like it comes really quick. And I think that I'll have more time in the future of my creative practice to dedicate myself and slow down, because it's incredibly, like, I get, without going off on a whole nother tangent, like just this incredible anxiety with like honing in and harnessing my the energy around me when I'm doing artwork. It's such a learning process. And what I'm getting right now is I should probably sit here and do a still life of these roses that I bought for myself because I'm alone on Christmas. And I wanted to look at them because they're beautiful. Yeah, can you imagine if I brought my easel down here tomorrow out and painted the lights, that would be exquisite. That would be so nice. I get really sidetracked because I'm so intent on just moving things forward and moving things along in terms of how I can better enter the next phase of my journey that I really want to be creating and sharing as much information as I get, because that's really like the joy that I've been denying myself for such a long time. Because there's just always been a narrative in the back of my mind that's like, people won't understand you, people don't really care, it's not like, you don't have to be a performative person who lives on the internet, like just, so at so many points in my life was I like misunderstood and really just needed to validate myself, and I kept wanting people to see my visions the way I did, and I wanted to see people light up the way I felt when I shared and saw certain things. Here's something I wrote. It's almost a comedy how long I've put this off for. I have kept myself so spiritually captive for no other reason than I've been letting fear win. And that fear is the sheer horror of being seen and known. It's a juxtapositional desire to share and desire to be known, but total, like, in an inability to not express it. Like, I'm just like oozing stuff out of me that wants to be even better. I think like my life is calling me to be like really dedicated to my craft and my practice. But then, I manifest the space and the time and the resources and the people and to do it. And it's like, oh, but not now. Like, oh, I'm not ready, right? It's a self-sabotage-y thing. Like, I've been doing that dance for a very long time. And so it's like, right, there's a sheer intimidation of being known and seen, but I can't not do it. And there's this what if of like, well, what if I do it? And it's like, well, I already know the what if of what if I don't do it. I've been living that way for a really long time. So you know how that goes. I'm like stuck in a loop, so the paralysis of having so much access to so much different information. And like I said before, it's coming through visually, and then there's poems, and there's like, it's just a full on, again, like that pyramid of like the senses. It's like a quantum seed that like I can have a thought that I'll think about for 3 seconds, but if I tried to explain it, it would take 25 minutes because it was so potent of a seed, little droplets of gold, and the potential to express these ideas in like, oh, maybe it should be a painting, maybe it should be a YouTube channel, or like maybe I'll cut all of these different videos that I record down into a film or a book, and it's like, it's been paralyzing. So, my affirmations lately have been like, I'm strong enough at this point to embody all of this energy and just hold it in myself and hold it up and share it, because I just kind of, when I circulate it around, that's when I feel like I'm not fulfilling myself, right? Because again, there's no end to it, right? Life is just the beautiful process of becoming and enjoying the present moment and letting your, another quote that I can't cite the author of, the purpose of your life is to find your gift and your truth, and then the way you should live is to share that with others. It's simple and it's nice. So I haven't really been ready, I don't think, in many ways to do the sharing part, but without being like too hard on myself, I think I've done it in small ways, in many ways, but not at the scale that is like banging my door down spiritually. So, and then something I said in a different video at a different time was like, I was realizing while I was talking that maybe this is a good format for me, because when I say an idea, I release it, and I'm no longer wondering how I should express it. I just shared it, and whatever comes of it, comes of it. But to come back to the bus story, I had that, and no more than 3.5 hours later, I was standing in Sagrada Familia, I believe is what it's called. It's a just like insane church structure that was incomplete. Architect Antoni Gaudi. He and Salvador Dali were two like historical genius figures that when I was in Spain, I wasn't there for very long, like 3 days, I felt so deeply connected to. I have another story about Dali and being at La Gare de Perpignan, the station of Perpignan. It is a place that Salvador Dali called the center of the universe, this train station, small little train station. Okay, I didn't know that. And the same bus ride, okay, so Sagrada, I'll finish my one story and then I'll go to the next one. Okay, so Sagrada Familia, Antoni Gaudi. I went into this building, and if anybody has been there, then they know what I'm talking about, but it is arranged in a rainbow. So it's the circular space, these rainbow windows, in it. So basically like guidance, spirit, the energy that I was picking up on, I have goosebumps talking about it. I have goosebumps sharing about it. But you can't see them, can you? Whatever. It was like, prepare your eyes for what you're about to see. Like there's just this beautiful balance, like rainbow. I'm just so obsessed with the rainbow in my art, in my home, like chakras, like rainbow for me is the closest we can come to what I can see in, the spiritual realms of like beyond color, beyond light. It's like this just a beautiful amalgamation. It's why I love like the glitter, the rainbow, the colors. It's because there is something beyond all of this that is, another good example of this is like the sensation of orgasm. A lot of people would say like, well, there's nothing more like ecstatic ecstasy than that. And it's like in this life, right? Certain highs in this life don't hold a candle to the like elation of higher frequency, right? Because we're so dense in our bodies. This reality and world is only designed to hold so much experience, and everything that is love and elation and light and magic is higher vibrational. If I had the ability to, I would drop in the image of the emotional spectrum where all of the low, dense, negative vibrations and energies are lower waves. Okay, it's not like theory, right? These are they can measure the electromagnetic field and frequency of a human in such states, right? Brain scan, seeing like the thermal areas lit up, like depression, like these are very real, measurable things. So, I mean, that for me was one of those moments where I just felt so right place, right time. Oh, in fact, I can see in my mind's eye, I know what I posted on Instagram in 2018 on the day that happened. And it was a picture of me on a balcony of the place that I was staying in Barcelona. The caption was, loving every day the universe's, loving the universe's way of telling me I am exactly where I'm meant to be more and more every day, or something like that, because it was so profound. So profound. Okay, so on the same bus ride before we even got to Barcelona, Sagrada Familia, everything, we had stopped at a train station, La Gare de Perpignan. I was also meditating and journaling at that point in the ride, and on the way there I saw this vision, and it was this glowing like tunnel of light, and there was like this little man in it floating, and I was observing without judgment again, right? Because it's like you kind of have to surrender to the complexity of your own experiences and not try to judge it, and allow things to be both and allow yourself to be confused. Because ego and judgment and fear, that's how you start to block the things that if you want to see them, then you'll see them, right? I've definitely, like, I can testify to both of those things. I've definitely shut myself down where I'm like, I don't want to see this. I don't know what's happening. But then ultimately, if you, I'm getting the kite and the anchor symbology. If you're existing in a high vibrational state, connecting to higher realms, higher energies, you also have to stay grounded to earth. You can't just go, because that's when you get, I don't know. Everybody's different. I can get what people would consider manic, or almost like, I can get like spiritual flu too. I get myself worn out. That's not how people are meant to live. I need to stay grounded. My goal, and Erica said this tonight, Gypsy, Cowgirl Tarot, she said you want to become as close to non-physical as possible while still being physical, because that's how people do light work. You want to be able to transmit and hold a space because you're powerful enough to hold very high frequency that it affects other people in positive ways. You want to be able to do that without being ungrounded, because you can't do it if you're ungrounded. You can access it if you're not grounded, but then it's not going to be beneficial to like yourself long-term in your own vessel or other people. So it's like it's just taken such a long time to master that, right? In my history, personally, in terms of mental health and diagnoses, there's a major bipolar chapter when I just didn't understand any of that. So it was manifesting in a very, very literal way. And so I saw the little man floating in my mind's eye. Again, I drew a doodle of it in my sketchbook because I like to be able to see the synchronicities come full circle. And it's nice that, you don't catch all the doodles and you have to trust the ones that you don't put down on paper. That's all right. The ones that are meant to be put on the page will go on the page. It's not up to you. It's time will pass anyway. You can sit there and draw nothing, or you can draw. A lot of people are like, I just feel like I draw and it's not good, or I write and it's not good. It's like, okay, well then you don't have to do any of it, but you might as well just see what happens, because it's a practice. It's a never-ending thing. Like, I look at my sketchbooks and I don't, I think they're kind of ugly. They're all scribbly and weird, but I pour into them. I see the merit in what I do, even though it hasn't been the finished beautiful art practice that I yearn to have and that I know that I am capable on some level. I've been in a deeply scribbly phase, which, maybe that's just how it's going to be, but I can see this. To be honest, I feel like I'm the energy is, and I'm hunching over right now, is scribe at a desk in the 1800s with feather and quill, drafting, trying to prepare the most mega guide for, I think that I can basically, now I'm seeing that man, he's bald, he has the friar haircut, surrounding himself in this cylindrical tube of all the drawings he's ever made, and then just up the tube, just shooting out all of this work that is a never-ending synthesis of that. That's kind of what I've set myself up to do, because I've got, I could take these journals and create, even this fractal alone, right? This fractal alone, I could make artwork about for 2.5 years and never run out of ways to do that. So I really think that at this point there's enough in the books, as it were, and I can do different things now. So I drew the little man, and then we get to Perpignan, and then my tour guide shared this fact about Salvador Dali, and she said that he went there at one point and he made this proclamation that it was the center of the universe, which is, I think he's, knowing Dali and the playfulness and the surrealism and just the wildness of his visions in his life, wherever you are, wherever a conscious person dares to dream, that is the center of the universe, because space and time, fractal, it's all here, it's all now, it's all, it's just the intersection of space and time, and realizing, and you can kind of trip out and be this is all life passing right now. Every single second, that's the only thing you're ever going to get. It's gone. It's already gone. It's already gone. That for me is how I kind of click into the quantum field. Because this present moment, again, it keeps ticking by. I can't catch it and encapsulate it, but I'm always sharing that with every single other person in the world. We're all in the same present moment, time zones aside. I live and breathe. Somebody across the world is sleeping right now. We're still all in the same present moment. So I feel like when I heard that that's what Dali said, I was thinking about how it was a special location, how I was I can't believe that I was standing in a place that he stood, and then we went outside and there was this just amazing orange light from these shields. The sun was streaming through these shieldy things on the building, just casting this beautiful orange light. And I looked up, and on the top of the building, the little man that I'd seen in my vision, there was a big sculpture of him. And it wasn't a normal sculpture. It was a man sitting with his little feet out, just like I had seen in my eyes. And later I Googled whatever I could about Laguerre de Perpignan and Dali, and he made a painting that has the man in the middle with the orange light, and the light and the tunnel of light. That's how I saw it in my vision. And I feel like that summer in particular was like a big opening. Like I let myself go to these places, because I shared earlier, I can go through times of shutting down and not letting this experience come through in such a natural way, or maybe I don't have the time and space to like keep track of it, because I'm always so desperately wishing I had uninterrupted time to play creatively, and then I get it and I'm like too anxious to seize, to carpe the diem, because I'm the Fool tarot energy, like need to take the leap, need to start the new journey. The Fool walks the whole journey of the tarot deck in the major arcana. Deeply transformational time for myself and who I am and what I'm meant to do, but also a lot of other people. So interesting to be documenting it. Oh my goodness. So I think that's the majority of what I wanted to share. The Gaudi story. Guidance from previous connections. Okay, so I'm also thinking about like, if you think about, space and time as a quilt, and by that I mean, something, space going this way, time going that way, points on the grid, the graph, those are, people and moments and memories, but you can transverse this quilt of space and time. It's not as linear as we experience it. You can go here, go there, and that's what I do, and I think many people do with like investigating other experiences that the soul can have. My human experience is like other people's human experience, in that I do live, day after day, minute after minute, time is linear. But my soul's experience is a lot more adventurous, because I can go to different points outside of the human experience. They're different experiences. And so through that, you can visit other like incarnations of your being, or other like realms where you're called to do like spiritual work. One that comes to mind for me is that I feel like I helped people out of a train crash in a different world. Like it was like a dream, but I was super lucid. I knew that I was there. Like it was almost like I just came to, like I had been in the crash too, and then I woke up and I was pulling people out of cars, like, and I felt, my body. I felt it was like a lucid dream. And then I came back to my body. Like I guess I'm gonna say like describe a sensation of like, sometimes I dream and I'm like, yeah, I feel like I was in my bed all night and my mind was whirling. And the activity was in my mind and the narratives of my psyche. But sometimes I wake up and I'm like, I just came back from being so far away, like that whole thing about the star, the electron in the star, being able to interface directly with the electron in your vocal cords. So through quantum mechanics, your words are so powerful, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, I mean, I believe, again, it's the quote about how can infinity be interconnected through a fractal? You can touch something that's light years away, which is, it's why it's so funny. Science and spirituality, it kind of just numbs people's minds out, because we can't even conceive of the distance of light years, which I talked about a lot in a different video. But the quilt, I feel as if I went to other places in the world, I wouldn't have, obviously, right? There are very meaningful places in the world that I feel like we can go as people, and This has happened to me many, many times because I've been very, very lucky to be able to travel a lot. But sometimes I go to a place and I'm like, it's like you just feel deeply resonant with it. It's like a kinship. It's like the Dalai Lama, how they find the next Dalai Lama by placing the objects of the former one on a table presented to a toddler who, is put to the challenge of selecting the objects that resonate. And then if the child picks the right objects, then they might be deemed the reincarnation in the new Dalai Lama. That's how it feels. It's like you can go to certain places and feel this kinship, and it's not like you're going to look at it and be like, that was my house when I was alive in the French Renaissance or something. It's like, it's more like those things will happen. Like all of a sudden I feel like a big chunk of the non-physical energy, like just like guidance and angels and energy and like things like big energies beyond the human experience. All of a sudden, all of that just gets queued up and is like, behold this deep overlap in where you are now and who you are now and like who you have been and where you have been. And like, it's like a deep integration that's beyond words, where like those profound experiences will happen. And like, I don't know who to tell about that. Is it an art project? Is it I don't know, but like it's moving. It's like, it is like religion to me, like this unfolding of things and being shown life and thinking about history and seeing, not to say that those were like past lives for me, but something, there's something there, it's a resonant energy for my spirit and my soul and my creativity. It's a language that I speak because there's so many things that resonate with so many different people for so many different reasons. And the words that cheapen all of this is the things like past lives and like, I don't know, very, very hard to say things without skewing the ways that people think about what is trying to be said. Yeah, another thing that came up for me was that we were talking about like the power of generational healing, and going back to what I was saying before about how the body, right? People don't understand how big this like the spiritual stuff is, because you got people over here who are like, it's so cool that you have time to focus on that. It's like, yeah, I wish I had more time to focus on it, but I couldn't not if I tried. I couldn't not do it if I tried. It's not just a passion or a hobby. It's like just like trying to, keep allowing and evolving and changing my experience to align more with like the yellow brick road of creativity that I feel like I'm on. And here's an interesting thing that's coming into my mind, right? I think one of the critiques of the New Age, especially from like a Christian point of view, and I do like Christianity, all corruption about the Catholic and the Roman, all of the history beside, right? I do love the beauty of the light of Jesus Christ and God. I believe in that power. I've used the name and the light of Jesus Christ to banish bad energies from my presence that wanted to take from me. So there's a lot of power there. And I think that like the critique of the New Age and people testifying to finding Jesus and working like exclusively with Jesus and cutting everything else out is like the New Age is just it's just a roller coaster. It's all false hope. It's all like toxic about like, ascension and things like your body's gonna hurt because of these ascension pains, blah blah blah. I think there's a lot of like it's so hard to communicate about all of this, and I think a lot of like the pop spiritual discourse that is circulated, I don't know how to put it into words. Like maybe the most popular stuff isn't, yeah, I'm gonna like hold back from trying to put that into words, but I'll be honest, I got to a point, was it last summer? what season is it? A year and a half ago. So it was the summer before this past summer. And I got to a point where I didn't want any of the spiritual roller coaster. And I wanted to just release the journey and follow Jesus, basically, and just let everything go. You know, there's a lot of people that say that, like, the spiritual journey, like, people who are new age healers and stuff are infiltrated by, like, demons, and it's like beings that are masked, pretending to wear light, but they have, like, nefarious or malicious intent, and, like, all of that. Just, I got so, like, sick and burnt out, and I didn't want to think about whether it just brought all this judgment into this space that had been so pure for me. And you know, what came back, I mean, I really just, what I think I did is I dropped into the physicalness of my life. I stopped being so much in my head. 6 months after I had that, like, I don't know, I need to stop all this, I got my first, like, quote unquote real job, or, like, you know, something that was a little bit more stable and adult and interactive, like an actual company, you know, instead of a different kind of job, or some of the things that I've been doing in my life. And so there was a lot to focus on that had nothing to do with, like, this deep, complex inner world, or this deep, complex cosmic world and collective. And slowly but surely, over the course of a year and a half, and I really just kind of, you know, took comfort and peace in the energy of Jesus Christ throughout that time. And I thought I would do more with it, but I didn't. That was all I need. I just wanted peace, you know. And what people say, a lot of people go to Christianity after being, quote unquote, caught up in the New Age cult, because they realized that they were always anxious before. They were always searching. They were always yearning. It was like, you have to release in order to manifest, like, all these rules, all these things to master. And then with Jesus Christ, with Christianity, they just had peace. And that's, you know, what supposedly people say, you know, how you know that it's a spiritual truth, like, of alignment. So I just kind of leaned on that, you know. And what came to be true over the year and a half is that all this stuff is just part of, like, the way that I see, right? So the doodles started creeping back in, the information. I really did want to question. I was like, am I contributing to the world in a good way by sharing this? Because I don't want to be somebody that people think is on a roller coaster that's illusionary, that doesn't have any real answers or substance to it. Because I know the feeling of, you know, high frequency love and peace, and I try to access that. For me, I mean, I see it, it's God energy. I see it as that brighter than bright, like, lighter than light, rainbow, iridescent, opalescent, like, magic. Like, it's truth, like, it's oneness. It's God filaments, like these little spinning fibers. Again, like this spool, this tattoo, I was talking about that in a video, excuse me, that I filmed 2 weeks ago. Oh, that's quite interesting. I'm being shown the piece that I did for my final exhibition at school. I'm gonna get my iPad so I can share. Sweet, Bobo. Oh, you're so sweet, little. You're such a sweet schmoo. Okay. So, this is the piece that was the inside of a triptych. Well, I'll show, like, there was the doors that open, a hollow core door from Home Depot, just a door, sawed in half, each half put on hinges so they'd open like doors. The inner peace was inspired by the painter Ernst Fuchs, who painted Jesus Christ in the 15th century. And the crown and the angels I took from his painting, and I wanted to render them in a traditional manner. It's pretty cute because the crown has little pearls on it. Oh, it's not going to focus. Like physical tiny glued pearls. I just love like details. My critical eye, I do hate how much gold sparkles I just chunked in there. I get really overzealous with sparkles. I'm still learning how to be delicate and smart with communicating visual matter. But so these twisties, you know, the spiral, ascension, the grid, blah, blah, blah. Also the grid for me, right? Like space-time devoid of matter, like the we render as we go, like the simulation, like black hole, like all life emerging. This here being like a plane, a plateau of consciousness, a board game, Candyland, where all of this matter can catalyze into anything. These rainbow expressions, you know, light. Okay, so here for me, like the power of this piece was conflating that true peace and energy and light of Jesus Christ that so many people, like the reason why that religion is like insanely dominant, you know, and changes people's lives. And I mean, even to this day, right? People who are involved and practice religions, like there is magic in the world. There is miracles that take place. And I think the biggest illusion of all is that they come from somewhere outside of ourselves. This is making me think about the teachings of Joe Dispenza, who talks about like your mind is the placebo, like becoming a superhuman. He writes on many various different topics and is very educated about the scientific part of frequency and matter. And it's like, you know, in order to let a miracle happen in your life, you simply have to believe that it can, and then start to expect that it will, right? And I think that the power of miraculous healings is like, even if people don't believe it, the conviction of, you know, healers or practitioners or things, or the desire for change, like something will physically manifest to, like if the scales tip in such a way so that there can be this miraculous like appearance of said miracle. So I think that the narrative, right, the language of how we can translate this feeling for me, which I think is the feeling that people get when they, you know, practice the religions that they believe in. I feel like I've been very critically hard and judgmental on myself for a long time, especially because I'm like popping in and out of like Instagram and YouTube and TikTok, and people being so critical of like, this is how you do spirituality, and you're like, you know, aligned with bad demons and whatever. It's like all that is intense, and there are people that are aligned with bad energies, and I've definitely been in bad energies and had crazy things happen at different times. But when I'm happy, healthy, lit up creatively, having my energy and my heart in the right centered space, I don't need more than that, because I have learned how to self-validate. It's been so long. I've learned to do it, you know? So I know that, you know, if the intent is aligned with this energy, it's okay to not be in one camp. It's okay to be like, I don't really know, because the whole point of this is so that I can make my own, not religion, like a joke in people that know me is like, I'd be a really good cult leader, like I would, but I don't want anybody to follow, like I want to give, of course I want as a human to have a prosperous life and follow my passions and be prosperous and make money doing things that I love, but I don't want to like push or sell anything. It would be my greatest dream, and like I would feel like I am getting a gift if people just wanted to listen to me and I could just talk and talk and talk, because I've got free information for days, and I think that's like, it's I can sell, I can make like maybe I'll make a book and publish it and sell it. That's good, right? Because it's hard work, and the exchange of money is for those efforts. But in general, I feel like I've just been tasked with a lot of information that it doesn't the exchange, what I get out of it is just doing it, because I like doing it. I like painting. I like talking. I like thinking. I like doodling. I like seeing things come full circle. I like having my mind being blown. I like going into the astral realm. I don't like being, fucked with. I don't like encountering scary energy. I don't, but there's a lot of things that we don't like in life that happen when we leave our comfort zones or try to expand ourselves or change the way we've been doing things. But that doesn't mean you did the wrong thing. It means that you're learning something about unknown territory that equips you to go forward in a more effective way that's truer to who you want to be and how you want to live. I feel like it's true in life and life experiences, and it's no less true in one's spiritual path, because that's the whole as above, so below, as within, so without, right? Whatever is happening here is happening here. All the spinning micros and macros, and again, like that's where we get into like the collectives feeling this way, that way. It's like there really is something to that. So I'm just gonna like reiterate that for myself, because I want to understand it a little bit better for myself. But like, I think I've been dealing with fear of expressing myself, because I don't know. I guess I just haven't been able to fully accept that there's going to be plenty of people that do not want to listen to me, or do not agree with or resonate with the things that I say. That's okay. And I guess that I just have felt for a long time that I wouldn't be able to like deal with that, because all the desire to be known, but the fear of being known, right? It's like a deep inner child thing, wanting to be loved, wanting to be seen and accepted for who you are. So there's a quote, like the annoying student I was when I was in school, instead of submitting like a future plans report or whatever was asked of me, I just put a Bob Dylan quote on a piece of paper that said, your destiny is something that you must keep inside you, because when you put it out there where everybody can see it, they can, harm it or whatever. And like the energy translation of that is like, when you put yourself out there, then people can attach their energy to you, and you may not want that. And I don't want that. But I think that there's, things that we can do. Where I'm at, like the scale's tipping, it's like, what's going to happen, I think it's more important to be transparent with myself and enjoy my life and share in an unfiltered way, if that's what I feel guided to do. I think it's okay to be like, this is strange, or like I feel self-conscious, but like, to be honest, I'm just going to be sitting around talking about all of it anyway. It's really what I've been doing I have so much content. I'm a content creator who's never posted any of their content. And that's okay, but the scale's tipping such that like I said this before, like my door being banged down, of like it's almost a comedy how long I've put this off for. And the only thing left is to accept, be a little more compassionate and loving with myself, because of these, the deep, like, I want to be loved and accepted for who I am, just as anybody else does. I think if you can catch yourself in every moment and know that there's something beautiful and cosmic that you're tethered to, that also loves and sees you and supports you and catches you in every moment. Anybody who doesn't see and love you and support you kind of falls away. It doesn't matter, because why? the greatest gift we can give to other people, even if they're different from us and we don't understand them, is just to let them be who they are. So I think that a lot of people try to use spirituality and religion and ways of, everything's so manipulative, to talk people into or out of things. And really, like, we want people to like what we like and see what we see, because it works for us, and that's the way. But everybody should have the freedom to pursue what lights them up and what interests them. And I think, within that, everybody does have a spiritual life, because I don't think you can be a human not having a spiritual side. But if somebody's true enjoyment of their life means snowmobiling and just brushing the horses and drinking beer, I'm seeing like winter ranch vibes, reading books, hanging out at the local watering hole, binoculars, there's a hawk flying in the sky, like this beautiful, simple, tethered to nature life, right? That's a deeply spiritual life, because there's moments of integration with all, nature and energies and just peace, right? A person on the other side of the world doesn't have to have any words for any of this. It doesn't mean it's not a spiritual, well-lived life. And I think culturally, Americans are just people in general with the internet, and like, this is what it is. This is what it is. When I looked up, it was 11111 on the timestamp. Gosh, everybody just wants to tell each other what's right and what's wrong. So much stuff. It's like live and let live, I think. A lot of activisty people who want to change injustices in the world create more conflict. That's a very controversial statement, because I'm not trying to say that it's bad to stick up for the things that you believe in and have the hard conversations. But I think that a lot of people are very emotionally distraught, and there can be, karmic slates of people's own growth and development where, like, you can dedicate your life to a cause, but you can also set yourself free. And I would say the best way to support a cause and live your life is to hold the vision and the desire of seeing the cause be righted. So if I was thinking about follow an Instagram that's just brutal, it's called Slaughterhouse Survivors, and it's about a woman. I mean, I think it's run by a woman in China. The dog meat slaughterhouses, there's dogs, and they save them from being butchered and sold for meat. I also think of Sarper Duman, who's a piano man on Instagram, and he just like rescues and saves cats and tries to refoster them. So these involvements, right, their lives are very deeply heartbreaking, because of the things that they see, the pain, the damage, the suffering to these innocent, beautiful animals that needs deep love and healing, and the horrible energies of people, abusing animals, just attaching to that is so heavy and heartbreaking. And I think that, it takes strong and beautiful people to subject themselves to that, to try to help. And so I guess, like, what I'm trying to say, what I'm thinking about is, like, if I was either one of those people and that was my life, I would just, the advice, what's coming up for me is, like, you would want to hold the vision of what it would mean to have this issue be eradicated. You would want to hold the vision of seeing all those beautiful little babies in perfect health, glowing, feeling loved, and the cats purring, the dogs wagging, just, the angels that they are, that infusing everything with that angelic, healthy harmony energy, and letting that be the guiding light, and knowing that that's possible, and knowing that that's what you're working to restore, and knowing that by holding that energy, that's what you bring to the situation that will naturally heal, the things, even if it's an animal who is going to die and the injuries are beyond repair. Holding that frequency, and to hold it, by the way, is to actually feel it. So it would be counterintuitive, because you'd be sitting with a dying animal just so full of sadness and remorse and pain for the pain and the suffering on behalf of the animal. But the counterintuitive thing is like, you just tap into the beauty and the beauty of peace and fulfillment. And even though the animal is suffering, you key into something that's higher, that like, shines brighter than that, and hold that space for that animal while it transitions or passes on, I mean. So I guess I think that my mission in life is to sing the song of what I want to see. Another one of my deepest insecurities is people criticizing me, the potential for people to criticize me for not being vocal about like the important issues in the world, and not being civically active, and not being like a good advocate, because I don't like the news and politics and this and that. Like, I don't want to have to talk about that and share my stances on all of that, because I see the energy milling about in those spheres as very not worth my time, to be completely frank. It's not because I don't care about the state of the world. I do want to protect democracy, but and then on the other hand, right, so at the same time, I can know that other people's paths are very much activisty, and they're meant to be talking and communicating about certain things. I don't think that mine is. But I think that other people might be on those paths. And so my hope and my wish, and maybe how we can like lead into a better, I'm playing with the cat, that's why I'm swishing the scarf. Lead into a better future where less people are suffering, even if they're doing or experiencing hard things, is that it's the journey, it's the trying, it's the every drop of that like quantum beautiful healing light that can be transmitted and transmuted and infused into the pain of life. The image I'm getting is the shattered pieces of pottery and ceramic and like Japanese art that they fill in with gold, the veining, right? Because when it breaks, it's the breaks that make something beautiful, because it has to come back together and heal. So like the more we can kind of heal and infuse that gold and beautiful energy into the veins of the cracked pottery, I think the more the human experiment will continue to enjoy itself, right? Because it's kind of, we're hurtling through space, having these lives, and is it meaningless? No. Is it going anywhere? Well, we're all gonna die, that's for sure. At some point, that's for sure. So what's it all for? And I think it's, at this point in time, about realizing the ways that our lives are made as if they're for something other than ourselves, or something other than what we have inside. So like from a very young age, in the home, in the family, in the school, and then in the society, and then in the world, like at every point of our life, we're confronted with expectations or designs or plans or things like we get thrust into. I mean, this is like, you get born and you get social security number and put into the Federal Reserve. Like you're ticketed and documented as a baby, a birth certificate, right? You're right in to being mapped and planned and told, and it's so compelling because of carrot and the stick system, like the reward, and just kind of like this very tired paradigm of working, and the outrageous taxes and all these 3D things and the goings on of our lives, and it's like, well, this is how the system goes and this is what it's doing now. And it's like, if you really look at history and times and see what's happening, like there will always be something keeping people in a state of subservience, I believe, not full embodied power of expression. think about different times in history, like the Renaissance, where things bloomed and blossomed, and there was a lot of evolution rapidly with arts and architecture and discoveries and just a true richness in life, right? I think that this is where we are at today, because people are in such a tired state where it's like, if you're in Plato's cave, you know, and if you don't know anything's wrong, then you're not going to look around to see if something else is more right or different, right? And then people in Plato's cave watching the shadows, right? It's like we're all just we're getting pretty major glimpses of like the charade, I think. And again, I want to veer away from like the conspiratorial language of like, you know, regardless of whether or not certain things are true. It's really like us as people living in the world, living our lives, breaking the system for ourselves. I don't think it's like people pulling strings again and this and that. I think it's more of like it's just due time. It's just the human collective and the human machine getting to a different stage in its path and in its journey. And I said this before in a different video, but that's why I am who I am now, you know, because I've been a lot of different like spiritual, I was going to share the blacksmith one, but I talked about that in the last video I recorded. So what I was thinking about tonight, because it's literally like -1 degree, -3 degrees. It's really cold out. And I went and ran an errand earlier and my hands were burning because of the cold air. Like it's like Arctic out there. Like obviously not, but so much colder than it's been. And I got back into the house and I was overcome with this feeling of having frozen to death in a past life, especially because I got off of the meet and greet call and I felt very like tapped in and stimulated by the things that I was experiencing. Okay, so growing up in a cold weather state, doing cold weather sports, I spent a lot of time outside in cold weather every year of my life, every winter, since I was quite young. And the sensation of being cold, like I can just feel that, you know, they're almost like an emotional desperation within me because of a time when I couldn't make it out of the cold, and just the like a visceral sense of like shutting down, right? Like freezing alive is so deeply painful. Like just everything, just cold, like how cold can penetrate and sting, and the sheer force of nature just consuming the life force out of a being. I feel like I can tap into that because I can think about it and like cry, like lament over the suffering that was on some level, form a different life that I led. And like it's been in this life deeply emotional for me to get really cold, because I do get really cold. I get cold easily, and I've been cold so many times in my life, really cold. And it's like there's something threatening about it to me. I don't know how I got on that tangent for sure, but I'm tired and I'm gonna wash my face mask off.